What's going on, guys? My name is Jake, and welcome back to Gax Reviews. So yesterday we covered the brand new Judd Apatow film, The King of Staten Island, and today I'm covering the brand new Spike Lee film that just dropped on Netflix yesterday called Da 5 Bloods. Now, it's kind of eerie that this film was coming out at the time, especially with the Black Lives Matter movement that is starting to ramp up again, and rightfully so, and the conversations and the discussions that people are starting to have. And I feel like this movie is coming out at the perfect time to try to keep that conversation going. And with that, we're going to talk about this movie. So if you haven't seen this movie yet, don't worry, this will be a spoiler for your review. And I want you guys in the comments, let me know if you've seen it. What do you think about it? What's your favorite Spike Lee movie? And let's get right into this right now. So, Da 5 Bloods. 5 black veterans who fought in the Vietnam War return for the first time since in order to find the remains of their leader, Stormy Norman, as well as some gold that was buried. So, like I said, this is directed by Spike Lee, and I haven't seen a ton from Spike Lee. Regretfully, I feel like I really need to explore his filmography a bit more, but I have seen BlacKkKlansman, which came out 2 years ago. And I've started to gather that Spike Lee is just a very different director. He has a very stylized type of direction that's just so original compared to other directors. And it takes you a little bit to buy into that style because it is so flashy and it's so different. But once you get into it, you're absolutely hooked and mesmerized by what he has. And Da 5 Bloods is really no different than that. He uses that style. He makes it a lot more stylized, and he cuts in specific pictures and videos to when the characters are discussing them, and it doesn't feel like a film. It feels more like a documentary that's teaching you these things along with it. And I love that about his movies. It makes the conversations feel a lot more powerful when you actually seen them and you have something to pair with what they're saying. And just the film in general, I came into it with a very different perspective. I thought that this was going to be more of a war film. They saw the cutbacks in the trailer of the flashbacks between Vietnam and that. And I wasn't too sure what this film was, but it was a completely different route than I was expecting. And I honestly loved the way that they explored the relationship between these 5 men and how the war shook them to this day. And really, that's what it comes down to and boils down to, is this is a film about how the war has never left them. And how since the Vietnam War, how they've all been affected and coming back and bringing them back the memories of their leader, Stormy Norman, played beautifully by Chadwick Boseman in the minimal scenes that he has. He's not in it a lot, but those flashback scenes are really powerful. And I also liked how he didn't use any CGI to de-age the actors, which made it even more powerful, thinking that these are their thoughts and them put into those situations and reliving it in their current state. Right? So it makes it seem like they've never left the war. And one character that stuck with me the most throughout it was Delroy Lindo's performance. And oh my God, if there was not one performance this year that is a stand-in and shoe-in for Best Actor, it's this performance by Delroy. He blew my mind in this movie. He has a very tough job of showing PTSD, and his character is the most prevalent and shows that the most out of all characters, but just the monologues that he goes through and the reasoning why he has that PTSD, and you explore him and his relationship with his son, who's also in Vietnam with them while they're coming back and exploring the gold and trying to find the gold and their leader. It's just some very gripping stuff. And I will admit that I wasn't the biggest fan of the movie from the beginning, and it did take a bit for it to get going. And I feel like that's a little bit of an issue that I had with it. It was kind of a bit too slow, but I was still thoroughly entertained and learning a lot of stuff throughout the way. But once it hits a specific moment, it just turns into something, like I mentioned, that I really didn't expect. It was very gripping. It was very white-knuckling at times, and just fully expertly crafted scenes that you know that Spike Lee is just on the top of his game with. And that's what makes Da 5 Bloods so entertaining to watch, is that second act really highlights and emphasizes why that first act of building these characters, where you come to learn about what these characters and what their motivations are and how they're feeling since the war, and all of that in general combined just creates such a poetic and such a powerful film that is needed right now to keep that conversation going, and one that I think is a massive film for Netflix this year, and one that is going to keep people talking, and I ultimately is a frontrunner for Best Picture at the Oscars. I don't think that there has been a film on this caliber this year. Obviously, that's not the fault of the year. We've had delays for reasons, but this is the first film that feels like an Oscar potential winner. And I fully enjoyed it throughout. Again, the first half was a little bit too long, but that second half and just the message and what it stood for and the brilliant performances, especially by Delroy Lindo, and just the story was so engaging and white-knuckling, and I couldn't stop watching. Another thing that not a lot of people are talking about is the set design is gorgeous. I think especially in that second half, some of the set designs that they go through, as well as the aspect ratios, how they keep switching between them, and it makes basically 3 different acts of the film, all differently too. Just Spike Lee is such an inventive and interesting director, and I can't wait to dive into more of his filmographies. But before I give you guys my final score for this, I want you guys, once again, if you haven't, to leave a like and tell me if you've seen the movie or if you're going to end up checking this out. So with that said, I'm going to give Da 5 Bloods a 4 out of 5. So probably around an 80% for me. This to me, I'd be shocked if this isn't in my top 10 by the end of the year. It's up there in my top 5 for sure. It's the most original film we've seen. It's the most powerful film we've seen this year. It's the most important film we've seen this year. And I think this could not have came out at a better time than right now. It's very eerie that it did come out at this time, but I'm very glad that there's a film out there like this that people can explore, talk about more, create that discussion. And yeah, it's a great movie. Everyone go check it out this weekend. It's a must watch. And that about wraps up for this video though. If you did like it, if you could leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. We got one more review coming for you guys this weekend, which is Artemis Fowl. And the more I think about it, the less excited I get while going into it. But that should be coming for you guys later this weekend. But that about wraps it up. I'm Jake, and I'll see you guys in the next one.